Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a very late, actually, Monday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. Woke up a little bit late myself as, well, I don't know. Maybe I needed to sleep. Anyways, plenty to talk about today as we do want to follow up on yesterday's weekly closure, also on the short-term time frame price action as well, and maybe a little bit of a look-see around the old altcoin sphere here too. Of course, only futures for traditional markets are trading as of now, so we don't really have anything to follow up on that regard. So with that said, I would like to wish you a very happy and healthy holiday season, I guess, and Merry Christmas to the Christmas celebrators out there as well. And with that said, let's now put the focus on the Krown Chain application, which we found at app.krownchain.net. And what do we see? We see continuation, my friends. We see continuation right now. Bitcoin dominance heading back up above 66%, of which we were bullish on that, and we have been bullish on that for months now, of which we are seeing that come to fruition. Bitcoin not even really breaking even the short-term range there, but driving that Bitcoin dominance up. So rotational markets are not necessarily in effect right now, or at least if it is rotations, it's going to be rotated to Bitcoin side for quite some time, and not going to be the most healthy environment for good old altcoin Bitcoin parents. Not the same case for altcoin USD pairings, of course, but Bitcoin versus any altcoin, not looking too good on the whole, of course. Open interest also around about 4 billion, of which this is the highest we've ever seen it since we started recording this data, and that is very interesting right here because we do see Bitcoin once again hold the top side of the range, continue on with the uptrend, even on the short-term time frames, higher highs and higher lows all across the board, and open interest adding another 200 million to the board right there from what we saw over the last couple days. In fact, actually, that might even make that just a quarter billion, as we have seen that steadily rise up alongside price action, alongside volume on this breakout, and that essentially does suggest that the breakout is real, of which I think that we've already kind of seen that with this massive 4,000 splurt above the prior all-time high of $20,000. But more importantly, that's going to play into the analysis a little bit later when we start to look at long-term trending sort of indications. Anyways, fear ingredient index also just stuck at a 92. It's broken as fuck, so it's almost as if we shouldn't even be looking at it for now. It is very interesting to see, actually, the futures premium over spot price action continues to increase over here, ever so slightly, but that does mean that the market is pricing in a bit more of an upside move. The global funding rate is also coming down a small smidgen from yesterday to today, it looks like, as well, and we now see a couple exchanges approaching that critical 0.1% funding rate region. Bybit and FTX, the offenders in that regard. But still, I want to see 3+ or more get above 0.1%, for a prolonged period of time, maybe like a day or two, at the very, 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 very least. And if that does happen, yeah, I'd start to feel a little more confident with calling at the very least a medium-term time frame high, probably even a long-term time frame high as well. But as it stands right now, still doesn't necessarily have that signature. So into the actual price action charts we go. And I want to start off today with once again the secondary charts, which I typically stick with when markets are in trend mode, of which I would say that this is in very much trend mode as it is right now. Let me just make sure that I'm recording, that my microphone's working. Nice one. This video might even be a little bit on the shorter side today as well, so we'll see how that goes. But you never know. You never know how it actually comes out. And yes, looking at the weekly right here, once again closing above the top side Toronto band after 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of sideways consolidation around the prior all-time high. Very strong signatures right there. But more importantly, with last week's massive girthy green dildo being shoved right in our faces right before Christmas, so Granny can be very, very happy about this one. Shout out to all the crypto grannies out there. It's fucking awesome to see, by the way. Like, actually really, really cool shit. But yes, referencing this right now, I do want to say that once again, we do have a trend in progress here from a weekly perspective on new all-time highs, basically price discovery, blue sky breakouts, and new all-time highs come extremely likely this week. In fact, I'd say even just as likely, probably even today. We do see that the 3-day close, the same sort of dildo signature here as well, and that is going to be ending in the next 2 days. So I would say that we are very likely, well, actually, technically speaking, I believe that we already have seen, we technically already have seen new all-time highs on this 3-day dildo right here, which started yesterday, I believe it was. But I do believe that there's going to be more on top of that, and we can also follow this on the daily as well. So what is the most important thing, if especially for long term right now? The fact is that we saw the weekly close above the top side Toronto band, so trend still continues on the weekly on new all-time highs in a blue sky breakout, aka price discovery. So this can get more and more crazy. Again, I want to really step back from being foot on the gas pedal and like, crazy clickbait sort of YouTube titles. But at the end of the day, this does look pretty fucking good. 3-day over here, trend in progress as well. And then we can follow the daily for a more short-term momentum on this. And yes, if we do see a daily closure above the topside Toronto band, I'd essentially be looking for a melt up to our next medium-term targets based off of our regular charts over here, which if we reference what we looked at over the weekend, I do believe the next major area was, yes, the 2.618, which is going to be 24,500. Above there, things get crazy once again. There's actually not too much stop in Bitcoin between, it's mostly just thin air between there and mid 25,000 bucks as well. And even then, the 3-spot extension right here, does get respected. It does get respected, but not as like a major pivot. So I highly doubt that things would stop there actually, even just for, maybe a medium term consolidation. Overall, it's really these guys right here that things typically do start to put in, more macro sort of related, maybe not macro related, but in this case, this would be a long-term related top. So I do think that there probably is more upside on this run as it is right now. And with that said, it's always important to reflect upon this as well. Bitcoin spent 3 years consolidating below the prior all-time highs of 20,000 bucks in a higher low fashion. And, if we were to put a pattern on this, of course, this would be an ascending triangle, which would imply reaccumulation over a long period of time. And is it gonna stop its rally just a few weeks after actually breaking out? No, I mean, you can look at this a couple ways. First and foremost, 11,500 was a big fucking deal right here, and then 19,000 right here on new closing highs for the weekly as well was just as equally as big of a deal. However, the first one, I guess the first one was more important because that's the one that really has been hampering price action for the last 3 years, selling off upon that level. But, at the end of the day, they all need to be taken into context with each other. And what essentially it implies that Bitcoin's going to be doing this for a while. I highly doubt that, you're going to see 3 years of consolidation just have less than a month of actual price action be based upon that. No, things can get more crazy here. And again, I would strongly suggest this erasing the left-hand side of your charts and not looking at the actual price numbers, because it's only going to, give you fucking googly eyes, or at least it does for myself. Think in terms of percentage now, because when it comes down to it, this is certainly not out of the ordinary for Bitcoin, or really any trending asset that's making new all-time highs. I've referenced this chart over here just showing the history of Bitcoin specifically, but you can do this on most major assets if you want to go to the stock market. And I've just marked off all of the prior highs, all the prior all-time highs in its history. And as you can see, anytime that it does, close on new weekly all-time highs, then usually get a retest of that area, but it's more or less off to the races. And we're talking big bad moves right here. This one giving you about 430%. This one over here giving you about 170% right there. This one over here giving you quite a significant amount more, 2950% right there. This one over here, and again, this is when Bitcoin was like 19 bucks. So we're going deep back into the history. This one giving you about a 1400% rally almost, and the one after that, and now we're getting to 2013, 560% rally, and then we get the same thing over here after about a year's long of consolidation for a fucking massive blow off of 79%. So, looking at it right now, with Bitcoin just breaking out of the prior all-time high, what have we seen, based off that? About a 26.25% move, of which is that relevant to what we've seen in the past when Bitcoin is in new all-time high mode? No. Now, of course, there's going to be ebbs and flows, and really nasty ebbs and flows in the lower term timeframes, absolutely. But if you are looking at this long term, which, I more or less turned into a long-term trader above 11,500, and now I'm like an actual long-term investor, I guess, above this level right here. No, I wouldn't say that. A little bit of an inside joke, but still, the more important thing to be talking about is that historically speaking, that would be a very unlikely result. And just going off of underlying market dynamics and understanding market psychology, is that what's happening here? No, I don't think so. I do believe that Bitcoin has a lot more upside to go. And as we did denote the other day, there actually is a measured move based off of both that first ascending triangle right here. That one was obviously hit right below 20,000, about 19. And then there's another one on top of that to be made out of the whole formation from 20,000 high to 3,100 low. and that would actually be pointed towards about 35,000. So I did release a video of the market, or sorry, over the weekend, talking about Bitcoin to 35,000 and why. Of course, clickbait title, and while I can certainly show ways to get there, and I do think that it is very interesting to see that we do have a measured move plus the 3.618 on the whole formation on a Fibonacci extension right here as well. That's pretty damn good confluence. However, I want to see a few more things come about, but realistically speaking, if we were to take just a percentage gain on that and see if this is maybe historically relevant as well, even that would be about a less than 100% gainer right there, which again, I know that it sounds fucking crazy, and really I do not want to come off as a fucking moon boy, but I also have to be realistic with the history of Bitcoin here as well. That would be very much an outlier as far as the result goes when making new all-time highs. So again, there is going to be ebbs and flows. There is going to be really, really nasty downside and everything like that. No doubt about that. As you see plenty of times, even in this, fucking face melting rally right here, there was, 30 to 40% downturns, quite often you could say, multiple times a quarter actually, in some cases. And still, even then, is that going to take it away from the ultimate resolution of that? I mean, it seems rather reasonable to be looking at those levels, to be honest with you. I mean, and probably higher than that. This would still be an outlier, even just talking about 35,000. Now, am I implying a time frame on this? Fuck no. This probably takes maybe a half year to a year or whatever it ends up being, and then I imagine that something else formulates around that level, or whatever level becomes relevant around there, and then we'll work off that. But historically speaking, it is something to kind of think about, that even just popping up to that level wouldn't be out of the ordinary. So fair enough. Anyways, off the Moon Boy chat, let's go into the Doom Boy chat, or there's not really Doom Boy chat here, but we can go into the lower term timeframes and talk about what's going on in Bitcoin right now, of which it seems to just be kind of stair stepping its way up. There's nothing really wrong with this price action right here, except the fact that Jesus Christ, man, I got some horizontals to get rid of over here. Jesus motherfucking Christ. All right, let's get that. Okay, let's start to clean up these charts a little bit, because while these levels are relevant on the downside, they're just not they're just not relevant where price action currently is trading right now. Of course, the prior breakout area of about 19,550 is going to be very much relevant going onwards and forwards here. Bitcoin were to come back down around it, would be an easy basing point. But for right now, even on the short-term structure, still 22,600 does hold. I was looking for a test, perhaps down around there yesterday. Bitcoin couldn't even get down below 23,000, which is pretty fucking impressive right there. Now, I'm sure there's some sort of bearish divergences forming right here. And yes, indeed, there is 1, 2, 3 strikes, of which did that already play out? Yes, we did see this move. This was not even that much of a playable one right here, from 24,000 all the way down to 23,000, but all in the same dildo, which is usually not a good sign. I'd imagine that if we went over to CMEs, it's going to tell a bit of a different story, and that is going to, and what do you know right here? There's no bearish divergence as far as caretakers RSI is suggesting right here. By the way, I will be releasing the caretakers SEC video tonight, which I think most people already know about anyways, but there you go. Nice little break before Christmas. And looking at this right here, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be, but Krown, we have a gap. We have a gap at 23,100 on CMEs. And no, not really. I mean, looking at the daily right here, I see wick to wick. That's completely fine. If you go down to the 5-minute, yes, there will be a gap, but this happening over the weekend could very easily turn into a professional gap right here, as Bitcoin does close on new highs on that first opening 4-hour for CME. So that, more or less looks okay. Realistically, what does it probably end up being? It probably just creates a new range, still using like mid 22,000 as a basing point for the short term. If we go back on over here to our BitMexican chart, that's exactly where our horizontal is, also correlated with the 2-spot extension right here as well. So I still like that as a basing area. I'm sure that people fucking around with diagonal trend lines are going to be drawing something like this, and I wouldn't trust that, but I would be looking at this as a short-term kind of a pivot point, meaning that if Bitcoin does break below it, especially on a 4-hour dildo, but maybe even on a 2-hour as well, yeah, we could use a 2-hour here as well. Then I would be looking for a big bad down, another $1,000 lower at the very least, and Bitcoin tests into the mid to low 21,000s, which is kind of crazy to say as well. But as it stands right now, I'm not really looking towards that. Things look more or less like continuation, at least for another try to the upside here to me. Again, remember, all higher term timeframes are bullish. The short-term timeframes are are more or less an ebb and flow. And as it stands right now, 4-hour stocks are crossing back onto the upside. I'm curious what caretaker STC has to say about this as well. Let's go to the 4-hour right here. What does it denote this as? It does say that it's bull zone consolidation, and it seems to be that, yes, we are being accumulated above the 20 simple right here as momentum turns up, and it would suggest a prospective bounce, or maybe not bounce target, but pullback target would be a better terminology for that. Just below 25,000 bucks, and if Bitcoin does break down, yes, it does get the low side of that range as well, kind of what we just said, in the mid 21,000 as well, so about 21,500. But as it stands right now, this one looks a little more primed to go to the upside, as that would be implied by this current structure. Anyways, 4-hour stokes looking like they do want to remain to the upside. I'm sure someone's going to point out the 4-hour jewel. I do not look at this as playable at all whatsoever, because this happened, one, over the weekend, and two, more importantly, CMEs do not look like the same. Now, it was giving off warning signals, yes, and that actually did produce a little bit of a dump, but that's not the way to play this indicator to begin with. What I want to see now, if this is going to line up to be a perfect sell, is I want to see it spend some time going sideways, and then maybe a little bit later this week, it could actually put in a signal like that. But as it stands right now, I would not denote it like that. This is just another reminder that weekend price action not going to be the best for looking at these signals, at least as it is right now. But if that remains this way, actually maybe like right before Christmas, then that could be problematic. Yes, absolutely. But as it stands right now, 4-hour momentum oscillator is turning back up, 4-hour RSI. 4-hour RSI is a little bit variable here, but long-term still, I'd say constructive. I don't have an opinion on its short-term, however. 4-hour historical volatility percentile looks like we're going back into a contraction phase as verified by the moving average on this. Coming down, I'd be looking at this to just essentially just flag out for a little bit more, trade a little more sideways within this range. And what we could say now is before I was using the top side of the range on a 4-hour right around the 2.414, looking at this as the consolidation levels right here, just using fibs and in structure. So that'd be about 23, about 900, 23,850, depending upon how exact you want to be. And to the downside again, 22,600 would be that area, would be that same area as well. And if Bitcoin does break to the upside, yes, I would be looking for an extension short term to 24,500. But as we looked at on the other term, on the other time frames, I don't think that things would stop there. Things likely do, play out maybe like a very short term pullback. But I would be looking for extension to 25,000, very likely actually, and that's going to be probably your next big round even number, a psychological number at that, which typically doesn't mean all that much. But you will see, you probably will see a little bit of flailing around there as well. Anyways. As it stands, let's go down all of the lower term time frames to see what else they have to say. 3-hour stair stepping its way up as well. And what do we see on 3-hour Stokes? Popping back up here too. So 4 and 3-hour on the same side, plus 3-hour RSI is in the process of giving you a little bit of hidden bullish evidence here as well. I'd look for that to play out with, at this point, this area. If this gets confirmed, this would be a damn good indication that Bitcoin is going to be making new all-time highs today. Probably does trade up to 24,500, and then we'll come back to a little bit later on the Forex video. But as it stands right now, we do see a different interpretation on HVP here. So I want to see what the 2-hour looks like first. Okay, the 2-hour and 3-hour are expanding. And what about the hourly? If that's expanding as well, okay, yeah, the 4-hour is the odd man out there. And yes, okay, if that's the case, then no, I would not look for further sideways consolidation. I'd look for a breakout here on the short-term timeframes, and with momentum oscillators in all the short-term timeframes, as we already saw 3 and 4 hour popping back up, and the bi-hourly going to have a chance on this next closure in 19 minutes and 45 seconds, which we can verify over here, needs to come above what level? It needs to come above about 23,800. So Bitcoin's about 150 bucks above that currently. Then, well, I'm looking for a move to 24,500, as you can see right there, and probably short-term pullback from that region, and then likely continuation over the next week. Same sort of hidden bullish evidence here, already confirmed. However, that one's already played out. Again, hindsight trading at 23.5 all the way up to 24, 500 bucks on a 2-hour divergence call. Pretty fucking good, while historical volatility percentile is expanding. So that does make me think that, yes, the first target would have been the prior high. The next one, if it so wants, and especially if it breaks above this level right here, in fact, I would even say that maybe it's already even broken. Bitcoin does float a little bit higher. So I know it's crazy. I know that we're kind of in like the twilight zone right now. And believe me, as a trader, I feel like this is a guilty pleasure, as I've been saying, like a very much a guilty pleasure. But every once in a while you get, you find a market that's doing something like you see Bitcoin doing right here, and just enjoy it while it lasts. Just enjoy it. No need to fight it. Just let it be. Just enjoy it. And what do we see on the hourly? We do see hourly Stokes pointed nice and directly to the upside as well. Hourly RSI constructive, playing out hidden bullish evidence, but I'd say that you've already seen the easy part of that move certainly play out. But seeing that signature here, while it's once again testing the top side of this range, gives it a strong likelihood. Yes, we are going to see this one break out to the upside. So fair enough. Looking good on basically all time frames. So not only am I bullish on the higher term time frames, short term time frames look like they are raring to go as well. 12-hour, what do we see right here? 12-hour Stokes, nice and erect. 12-hour RSI looks like it does want to give another run here as well. Do have to watch out for divergences there, but again, we were looking at 12-hour HVP to denote when the next likely local top is for actually the higher term time frames. And I want to see this get red and stay red for a while, similar to what you see over here, similar to what you see over here. And those were, some pretty big highs. You can see this one producing this whole consolidation range from about 20,000 all the way down to 16,500, and the one before that getting the 16,500 to the $15,000 range right here. So I do think that this is likely to operate in the same vein, but as you can see, it would still imply that Bitcoin is going to have a little bit more violent moves before we actually get to that territory. And even then, I want to see like a slew of this red color being put in before I even denote that there's one major certainly not, I don't know if I'd say macro, but high term time frame high being put in. Anyways, moving on to the daily, what do we see here? Daily Stokes never even came down. Jesus fucking Christ, man. This is getting crazy. Even the daily Jewel is just shooting above. That's actually a bullish read, if anything. That's fucking crazy too. Looking at CMEs, do we have the same sort of thing? Not really, no. So that is unfortunate because CMEs could certainly fuck this all up. In CME Stokes, nice and erect as well. CME RSI, constructive, good, but actually probably does get rejected on this next pass of the critical zone, but still long-term good, long-term very good. So fair enough. Anyways, did we close the 2-day last night? I think that we did. Yes, indeed. And let's see what it looks like on the Krown bands over here. Yeah, once again, closing above the top side Krown band. We've already come back down, filled the prior open. Probably new all-time highs again today. If I had to call it, and we've already looked at the 3-day, yes. Is there anything on our other oscillators here? MACD up, DMI plus up, ADX strengthening. It's all good. All things that we've already called out before, so I don't want to repeat it too much more. We're already 21 minutes into this video, so I think it's time to. That's right, fucking Punklandia and Grave. You're gonna get mad if I don't talk about this. So let's go. Or actually, no. This one's gonna be over here. All right, here we go. Let's get rid of that. And what we're going to do is they actually wanted me to look at this. The 55 EMA versus the bottom side Trollender band. And what they identified was something that I brought up over the weekend. Yeah, okay, we got that right there. Okay, 55. And we got that. Okay, yeah. Okay. Something that we identified over the weekend, but I was actually using a daily. So I'm curious if I understand properly what they're saying, because actually I thought the daily worked pretty fucking well, and the daily was making me bullish over the weekend, so that did seem to be the right call. But basically what they're saying is anytime there has been a cross of the 55 exponential moving average and the bottom side Trollender band on the 12-hour, there has been, well, I guess pullbacks back down to the 20 simple, or what exactly would they be saying about this? It doesn't seem like anything out of the ordinary to me, really. This one over here obviously brings price action back in, but there's plenty of examples right here where that's just not true. I'll probably have to talk this over again with them, because the daily worked really, really well here, actually. When you do get that cross, typically does bring price action back down to the 20 simple, or sometimes even all the way back down to the bottom side Trollender band as well. But then that second one after that, that's your trending move. I mean, we see the same thing over here. We see the same thing. We have to go back to prior rallies. Yeah, over here and over here, and that's what I'm mostly focused on right now. The first one, yes, that's your sideways move, and then your next test of the bottom side Trollender band is a buy, and then the next one is a breakout. I mean, you see that right here, very specifically. You see that right here, and it works to the downside as well on these dump offs. But as it stands right now, we're getting the more bullish signature of that, if anything, if I even understand their theory properly. But looking at the 12-hour, I don't see the same thing. I don't see the same thing, unless if, yeah, I just don't see the same thing in general. So I'll probably have to go and talk that over with them, because that is, maybe it was on CME. Oh no, that's just like really fucking difficult to read. Jesus Christ. That's just like a smear on my chart. All right. Well, anyways, we'll go back onto this one over here, and I will go check out. Let's go check out futures really quick. What about Nasdaq futures? 12,750. Based upon the way that Nasdaq closed out last week, I'd be looking for new all-time highs on this one as well. Whereas the next targeted region, we still do have the 2-spot extension at 13,150, based upon the pattern extension from this whole consolidation from about 10,950 to 12,1, and that's still where I'm generally looking towards, I guess. Looking at momentum oscillators, do we see the same sort of signature? Weekly Stokes, good, very strong right there. Weekly RSI, very fucking good. So yeah, I do still stick with that long-term target. Short-term, is there going to be an ebb and flow similar to Bitcoin? Probably yes. Does it continue onwards from here? Probably yes. So fair enough. I don't really have a strong opinion on the short-term timeframes, especially during real trading hours. What about SPY over here? It's going to be the same chart, pretty much the same chart. Yes, indeed. And there is actually, I would be looking for a little bit of a short-term downside on this one, likely back down to yesterday, or maybe not yesterday's, but hey, what the fuck was that? Last week's open, that would be somewhere down around about 36.72, and I would be looking for a bounce around there as well. Maybe, if that area does fail, if it comes back down below last week's low, I'd probably be looking for a full-on move down to about 35.85 region, but still long-term likely follows Nasdaq, but Nasdaq is leading the world right now. So as long as that one's bullish, I remain generally bullish in just about everything. If we go look at Eurodollar finally coming back down as well, but that is not good enough for me. Not good enough for me, sir. All right, let's go check out some altcoins here. Those highly altruistic altcoins, those very technologically advanced altcoins. Let's see what they're up to. Starting off with Mr. Buteral. Let's pick on him for a few seconds here. 640, putting in a little bit of a local high. I'm sure that that's accompanied by bearish divergence right here. I probably would be looking for a bit of a downside move on this one. Actually, I'd be looking for a move back down to about $600 base, and I'd be looking for a bounce there. Very interesting though, because we typically do see altcoins follow Bitcoin in the US dollar pairing, and I'm certainly more on the bullish side short term for Bitcoin. So would this imply that Bitcoin is not as short term bullish as what I'm kind of postulating right now? Could be, yes, it very well could be. But if I'm just looking at Buteral, I'd be bearish on short term. 4 hour coming down, short term to about 624, 625 region. Daily looks like it wants to play out that bearish divergence and come back down to about somewhere around 600 low. Weekly looks like continuation. So I would remain bullish on Buteral long term. Long term, still looking for about 800, and that would be the next long or high term time frame pivot point. So short term, what would that equate to? If things do come back down to 600 low, I'd be looking at that as an opportunity. This one is bullish on the higher term timeframes. Short term timeframes don't look as good to me, but then again, if Bitcoin's going to pull through here, would I expect Buteral to as well? Yeah, absolutely. So that is that kind of supersedes that conversation. But if I am just looking at this right here, could it be that Buteral comes down short term versus US dollar and then follows Bitcoin later? Probably yes. If I had to guess, that's probably what does happen. Litecoin USD, what do we see over here? Litecoin actually kind of leading the charge as well. Something that you don't get to see all that often, although it does happen. Daily looks like continuation. Weekly looks like continuation. Weekly is actually very good. Golden cross right here. I'd be looking for the next weekly target about 135 to 140ish region to get hit. Probably within these next few weeks, if I had to guess. This is looking pretty good on the weekly, and daily, like I said, looks like continuation as well. 4 hour, do we have the same sort of thing? 4 hour looks a little bit of downside. Looks like a little bit of downside as well. Maybe another move back down to about $100 even, but I'd be looking at that as an opportunity as well. Here's what it actually looks like on this chart over here. Where would those pivot points be coming in around? We see the daily at... Yeah. If the daily can just close above 119 today, that would be pretty damn good for continuation like today. But what are we looking at like on the weekly? Yeah, I wouldn't mind another move back down to low like 105, 110 region, and then bounce off there, just off the top side Toronto band here. Long term still bullish though, but short term probably does come back down and play out that move. And let's see what Mr. Buteral looks like on this same sort of venue as well. Yeah, in trending progress right now. So any sort of a move back down to like 600 low, and I'd be looking at that as an opportunity. But it is interesting to see that altcoin USD pairings both on the whole look like they are short term looking for some downside, but long term still good. So it seems to me that rotational markets are going to get even more and more crazy here as Bitcoin soaks up more and more of this market. In fact, let's just kind of reference that chart over here. Of course, Bitcoin dominance. What do we see? We see, sorry, this is actually, I don't actually care what it looks like on a chart like this, but trending wise, this is a runaway breakout, and this is a clear reversal on the weekly as well. So I would be looking at this as likely to get back up, past 70. This is going to be absolutely terrible for most altcoins versus, oh yeah, okay, I'm on. Little bit too early for me today. Definitely need that coffee, man. But yes, looking at this right here, I would be looking at this as likely to move its way past 70% over the next few months. Probably within the next half year, I'd be looking for most altcoin Bitcoin parents to be absolutely catastrophically destructed. There's going to be some big winners here and there, I imagine. Maybe Link is one of them because this one seems to be a little bit of a different actor, but even looking at it right here, well, let's go back to my regular charts and let's see if we can look at it a little bit differently. Got to squint for it a bit as short term it does look a little bit down, I guess. Weekly still okay. Yeah, if I had to call this one, maybe plays out a short-term downside move as well, but weekly still looking more or less fine. Above 16.5 bucks, I'm looking for a breakout. This one does look like it's getting reaccumulated though, alongside the 21 on the weekly. So I don't really have any major problems with that. Short-term though probably does trade back down towards like $12 base. Somewhere around there. I'd want to see this one in real time, but it is starting to lose a little bit of its luster. Like it does need to start to pick things up. We really don't want to see it, or if it is going to remain bullish, really don't want to see it below, let's call it like 11 bucks. That's where things start to really fall apart long term. But for right now, more or less fine. At least on the whole. And of course, this would be a good time to just reference all the monthlies. We see the monthly right here for Bitcoin, looking pretty fucking girthy. And of course, if we go to the monthly, we should check out the bi-monthly as well, looking pretty damn girthy as well. And what about the quarterly? All very, 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 very good. So again, this is a strong signature. By the way, just looking at the quarterly momentum oscillators, which how much do you trust them? That doesn't have that much history, not all that much. But what would this be? This be a rejection of the bearish control zone back into the neutral zone. I mean, you can really start to get a feel that this can fly quite a bit more. Looking at quarterly RSI as well, hidden bullish divergence playing out, but that was all the way back in literally January of 2020. So this is a signal that we got a year ago on this on this pivot right here. But now it's starting to play out. The signals do play out. It just takes a long time because it is a higher term time frame, of course. Anyways, with that said, I think it's time for me to wrap this bitch up. We're already 30 minutes into this bitch, so okay, let's use this chart for the lower term time frames. We'll use this one for the higher term time frames, and what we'll do is we'll go back here and we'll start down on the weekly. So let's wrap this bitch up. Bitcoin on the weekly closing above the topside Toronto band, as did CMEs, so more of a formality, but once again does hit in the bias for new all-time highs coming in very likely this week. In fact, going down to the 3-day, I would say within these next 2 trading days, so about 36 to 48 hours from now, very likely Bitcoin does make new all-time highs. I mean, technically speaking, it already did make new all-time highs on this new weekly dildo, which is looking pretty damn good. But as long as the weekly is closing above and the 3 days are closing above as well, I look at this as a trend in progress, likely to beget more and more continuation to the upside with relevant targets laid out in the lower term timeframes. Looking at the daily as well, this would be a more immediate trending signal if Bitcoin does close above the topside Toronto band here, which is just slightly above about 24,100. I look at that again as today's daily, a trending in progress and very likely to not just make a new all-time high today, but carry on over into tomorrow and probably even the rest of the week. So if we go down to the lower term time frame, start to come up with ranges here. Let's go actually to this chart right here. That's the one that we've been following. There we go. Still using the 2-spot extension here at 22,650 for our last prior higher low on the 4-hour, which would denote a change in structure, meaning that as long as Bitcoin's above this pivot right here, I am even short-term bullish. That also does imply that Bitcoin can come all the way back down there and not really do anything of particular interest. But if Bitcoin does break this area to the downside, I'm not saying that it is going to, but if it did, then I would look for a move another $1,000 lower based upon Caretaker's STC over here, as we do see a nice, what would be defined as a bull zone consolidation, but that would imply support right around about 21,550 as it is right now. So is that area relevant to the downside? Yes, but only if we break below 22,650 on preferably a 4-hour, but probably could do this on a bi-hourly as well. It looks more or less fine right here. By the same token, we do have the 2-spot 414 governing the top side of this range right here. It actually looks like Bitcoin's mostly already, closed above it anyways, although albeit on a very, 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 very light signature. But technically speaking, we did get pretty damn close to what would be the next target based upon that. That's going to be the two spot 618 right here, right around 24,550, of which I'm essentially just looking for Bitcoin to kind of float up there on the short-term time frames, and then I'd use this as the next pivot for governing a move towards 25,000 bucks. It's almost as if there's like a short-term stop every 500 bucks, but realistically, I don't really have anything major coming in within that region. It is a psychological number, yes, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be calling that one out, and that's going to get a lot of media attention, of course. But realistically, the next areas that I really have even mapped out above that are 25,750, and then above there it's really the 3 spot 618 and the 3 spot 272 that are big ones, and that's 26,550 and 27,550 respectively. So with that said, I'm generally bullish here. Looking at all low-term time frame momentum oscillators, we are pointed northwards and upwards, 4-hour, 3-hour, bi-hourly, and hourly. And I believe that on pretty much all these time frames, we're also seeing a hidden bullish divergence play out as well. Right here, right here, right here. This one's potential and about to be confirmed. And then the 4-hour is not there actually. But generally speaking, that just gives me a bullish bias on pretty much on all time frames, mediated by the 22,650 pivot right here, which would beget a $1,000 move for the downside, and then we can talk about potential reversals on top of that. But for right now, I'm still and I guess we'll remain bullish for probably the next little bit. And with that said, I want to wish you the best of the best and the happiest. Take care, and until next time.